What's up, guys? This is Alex with Unlock Your Wellness. Today's video, I will be discussing overthinking and how you can overcome it. Let's get into it. Excessive thinking is extremely common today. People are in their heads way too much. They absolutely suck at being present, especially in the Western world. We haven't learned how to do it. We haven't practiced it. It's like a skill. It's like learning to play the piano. So it's not a surprise that people have trouble with overthinking, which is also closely tied to anxiety disorders and other mental illness. So before we talk about what to do to slow an overactive mind, we need to understand why overthinking is happening and what is the purpose of it in your experience. It's very likely that overthinking is happening because you unconsciously are determining that you are low energy. You don't have a lot of available energy. And if you were potentially faced with a physical threat that was threatening your physical body, you believe that you wouldn't be able to protect yourself, that you wouldn't be able to respond to this threat. So overthinking is serving as a protective mechanism and as an overcompensation for you lacking in available energy. If you're overthinking and you're always in your mind, you are most likely able to identify this threat sooner or before it even happens. So this is just another genius way that the body can compensate for something that you're lacking in until you have that available energy back and you can feel way more calm and safe. Now, when your nervous system interprets any single threat in your environment, and it doesn't matter what it is, it can be your boss at work, it can be you getting cut off while you're driving on the freeway. It doesn't matter. Your nervous system interprets it all the same. And your brain is going to start sending messages through the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, to tell the adrenals to make stress hormones so that you can support yourself in responding to the stress. Now, when this happens, your nervous system goes from parasympathetic or rest and digest to sympathetic or fight or flight. Now, if you are chronically in sympathetic fight or flight for too long, also known as sympathetic dominance, you will burn through your nutrient stores, all of your nutrition and your raw materials, and you're eventually going to fall into adrenal burnout, right? You can't sustain stress forever. So you will eventually collapse and be totally burnt out because your adrenals just can't do it anymore. This gets even more damaging and complicated when you add in this additional layer. When you're burnt out, you have less of a defense against toxin exposure in your environment. So if you don't address adrenal burnout quickly and efficiently, you are more likely to accumulate heavy metals and other environmental toxins, and that will send you even deeper into burnout. And then you're not only deficient and toxic, but you also have this habit of being in the stress loop chronically. You've trained your nervous system to get into the stress response like that. This means that you're trained for stress, and we've got to break that cycle. In order to break this cycle and this stress loop, you're likely going to have to commit a lot of time and energy to get yourself moving in the right direction. Here's a quote from the grandfather of mineral balancing and hair tissue mineral analysis, Dr. Paul Eck. He says that adrenal burnout causes a distortion of reality and perception. Isn't that quite telling? And that applies directly, I think, to overthinking. When you're burnt out, you don't see the truth for what it is. And unfortunately, most people today are depleted, toxic, and burnt out. And that explains why overthinking is a major problem nowadays, because most people aren't able to make energy well, and their mind becomes overactive to defend themselves. So to get out of this, to overcome overthinking, we need to optimize and increase cellular energy, and we need to heal our adrenals and our nervous systems. So how do we go about doing that? Well, we can start by looking at our mineral system using a hair tissue mineral analysis. And we would do this because your mineral system is largely determining how well you can make energy on a cellular level. So for example, your minerals are telling us the cellular effect of all of your hormones. So this is a hugely important piece of your total body chemistry. And we can measure exactly how well your engine or your metabolism is running based on the mineral levels and the mineral ratios that we can see using a hair tissue mineral analysis. You can see right over here. This is what it looks like. We call your metabolism on a hair test the oxidation rate. And we calculate the oxidation rate by comparing the four main macro minerals against each other: calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. When we're looking at a hair tissue mineral analysis, we look at calcium and magnesium as the brakes on your metabolism and sodium and potassium as the gas. So if we have too much brakes, too much gas, or too little of either, we are going to have trouble making energy well. So over here in extreme slow oxidation, we have way too much of the brakes. Extreme fast oxidation, we have too much of the gas. And in 4 lows, which is also known as a complete collapse, all 4 of these minerals are below ideal. We have neither. So any of these extreme metabolic patterns on the hair test are going to lead to very poor cellular energy production and creation. And this can lead to having an overactive, overthinking mind. Now let's add in the heavy metal component. Mercury is a highly toxic heavy metal that has an affinity for the brain, and it is notorious for altering one's neurochemistry. It can warp the endorphins, it can increase histamines, which stimulate the brain as well. And common symptoms of mercury toxicity include irritability, anxieties, shyness, fright, and timidity. The most common exposure vectors for mercury include fish, mercury amalgam fillings, high fructose corn syrup, and skin creams and cosmetics. Interestingly, mercury can act very similarly as an SSRI. In this way, it will prevent the uptake of the neurotransmitter glutamate on NMDA receptors in your brain. What this means is that it will keep the neurotransmitter glutamate active longer in your brain, which creates an imbalance between glutamate and another neurotransmitter called GABA. GABA is responsible for calming the brain down, making the nervous system feel safe, and it also reduces intrusive thoughts. So if you have excess glutamate and too little GABA, this will lead to overthinking, anxiety, OCD, and other anxiety type disorders. Another metal that is notorious for causing overthinking would be toxic copper. Now, copper is an essential nutrient, but it can become toxic if the circumstances are just right. Copper is a good conductor of electricity, and it has a very similar effect on the brain in that it enhances all emotional states by stimulating the emotional limbic system, the mammalian animalistic part of your brain. Common exposure vectors for copper would include copper fungicide, eating too many fruits that are sprayed with copper fungicide, for example, vegan and vegetarian diets, which are very low in zinc, and zinc opposes copper, so you don't have that protection against excess copper, and then also birth control or copper IUD. When you are burnt out, there's even more of a risk for you getting more copper buildup because you can't properly bind the copper in order to use it, and it builds up in the tissues in a toxic form, a biounavailable form. This will happen even more quickly if you are deficient in zinc. Here's another quote by Dr. Eck. An elevated tissue copper level is related to exaggerated emotional states. Frequently, there is excessive brain activity, insomnia, and intellectual compensation for an inability to properly cope with stress and fears. Does that not sound like overthinking to a T? Intellectual compensation for an inability to properly cope with stress and fears. We think that we can think our way out of feeling a certain way, but it never works. We have to calm down the mind in order to feel differently and for our experience to change. We've established what overthinking is and some of the things that can cause it, but how do we address overthinking and resolve it in the short term and in the long term? Here's what we can do in the short term. It starts with mindfulness. What that means is being aware of your thinking and observing your mind, observing your thoughts. I really like this picture right here. You can see a man inside of his own brain, basically seeing on a TV screen what he is doing or what he is thinking, what he's seeing, what his senses are. So you become the observer of your experience instead of being unconsciously just going about what you're doing. So you have to be quite conscious. You have to get into the present moment and practice observing your thinking instead of just allowing yourself to think. So make sure you understand that distinction. If you don't quite understand this distinction, I would recommend you read this wonderful book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. This is an excellent entry-level spirituality book that will help you get in the present moment. It will improve your relationship with your own self and your own experience because you won't be identified with thinking anymore, right? And this is a huge problem with people who are overthinking. They aren't aware of anything different. They think that the thinking is just happening and that's their experience. It's not necessarily true. So we need to get into the present moment. We need to forget about the past. We need to stop worrying about the future and being in this present moment because that's all that there is. And the entryway into the present moment is through your body, feeling your senses. What are you seeing? What are you smelling? Do you feel anything? Can you hear anything? Can you taste anything? These 5 senses will be a great way at getting into the present moment, getting out of your overactive mind. Your mind, or your ego, as it's also called, are going to try and make your life miserable by telling you that there's all these problems and these threats and all this chaos in the world. And you will also benefit tremendously by taking this part of yourself less seriously. The Power of Now is a great place at learning more about how exactly to do this. So if you haven't read this book, The Power of Now, go and do it right now. And additionally, working on surrender and acceptance. If you are unable to accept what is in this present moment, you are denying reality. You are in denial of what the truth is. Like 95% of your total suffering right now will really just evaporate if you can just accept that whatever is happening is happening. It might be hard to believe, but trust me, it is the truth. And the more that you practice it, the more it will come true for you. Now, over the long term, we have some other ways that we can approach this and overcome overthinking. Now, I'm going to be going into some more spiritual topics here, a little bit of woo-woo stuff, but just hang with me here. Macrobiotics, or yin and yang, are a part of ancient Chinese philosophy, as you recognize from this diagram here, the yin and the yang. So yin has characteristics like cold, ungrounded, watery, heady, chaotic, moving apart or upwards, expanding, and typically more female. Yang, on the other hand, is more warm, grounded, compressed, dry, organized, inward and downward moving, and primarily more male. Now, in the modern world, we have a major problem in being way too yin. We have a yin problem in the modern day. We are not enough yang. And becoming more yang as a society and as individuals is going to allow us to be more present, be more grounded, and out of our minds, which is exactly what we want because it feels way more balanced. So we're out of balance here. And there are multiple ways that we can go about making our bodies more yang. First up is diet. In your diet, you will be best off prioritizing more yang foods like cooked meat, eggs, dairy, cooked vegetables, blue corn like blue corn chips or blue corn tortillas. These Hacienda blue corn tortillas from Whole Foods are amazing. If you haven't tried them, go do it now if you have a Whole Foods store in your area. Seriously, they're incredible. And also eating lots of quality salt. You also want to avoid eating fruit and sugar and staying away from drugs and alcohol, as these are very yin and they will make your body way more yin. Make sure you're cooking your food and not eating anything raw. As far as lifestyle is concerned, there's a lot of different things you can do. Primarily, you want to practice meditation, getting into your body and observing your thoughts, having a grounding practice. But even better than that would be what I call the pulling down exercise. You're consciously visualizing yourself moving energy down from your head to your feet, to the bottom of your body. You're moving energy downwards. Yang is energy moving downwards and inside, as opposed to yin, which is expanding and upwards. So just lay on your bed, close your eyes, visualize energy moving down from your head to your feet. From your head to your feet, moving that energy down, and just repeat that. This is very calming and it will help you get into your body. This is like the most amazing exercise ever. I highly encourage you to try it. If you're open to it, I would also recommend starting to build a practice of faith and connection with God or connection with the universe or higher power. This is going to help you trust and have faith in whatever is going to happen, because we all don't know what's going to happen. But if we have that connection to something greater, to a greater consciousness, we have faith in something more powerful than us, that will help us calm down our brain and our nervous system tremendously. And having a spiritual practice as well does much more than just this. You can also make your body more yang by prioritizing rest and sleep, getting like 8 or 9 hours of sleep a night and going to bed really early. Also, near infrared sauna, right? Because staying warm is more yang energy. There's no better way at getting your body heated up than a near infrared sauna. The near infrared light in the sauna is going to actually pierce through your cells and heat your cells internally as well as externally. So this is the best kind of sauna there is. I never miss a day in my own sauna. You can also do coffee enemas. If you don't know what a coffee enema is, it is basically the process of inserting and holding coffee, warm coffee, in your colon for around 15 minutes. kind of strange, I know, but there's a number of amazing benefits, including improved function of the liver and detoxification, as well as cleansing the colon. But it goes far beyond that, including making the body more yang. Most people have a lot of resistance to doing something like coffee enemas, but I'll tell you, as soon as you try them, you will be amazed at how much different you feel. There's two types of people in this world. There's people who haven't done coffee enemas, and there's people who have had their lives changed by them. And you can also work on mineral balancing. Getting your body full of minerals will make your body more yang, as minerals are yang in nature, and heavy metals are yin, very yin. In fact, they are basically the most yin thing on our planet. And mineral balancing and hair tissue mineral analysis are the best ways at getting rid of your toxic heavy metal burden. If you are tired of overthinking and you are ready to change your life and feel more calm and grounded in your nervous system, please reach out. We can get you a hair test. We can get you on a mineral balancing program. We can make your body more yang, and we can get these metals out of your body. You have my email right there. You have my website there as well. And you're welcome to schedule a free consult with me. The link is in the description below. And that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it and got some value from it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.